Good morning and welcome back to Mobility Matters. I'm your host, Javier Betancourt, Executive Director of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. We're the quasi-independent agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation. You can learn more about us on our website, miamidade.gov/CITT. So one of the things we fund at the CITT with our half-penny sales tax are all the municipal transit systems and other transportation projects that the municipalities are charged with. So 20% of our funds go to the cities, and that's distributed on a pro rata basis. So cities with larger populations get a larger percentage of our funds, and cities with smaller populations get a smaller percentage. The cities then are required to use a minimum of 20% of their funds for transit. They could use the other 80% for other transportation projects. So today we have a town manager of one of those municipalities, the great town of Miami Lakes, town manager Ed Pidermann. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I could tell you, we manage all 34 of our municipalities, and there's no greater example of a municipality doing good things with their funds than the town of Miami Lakes. Really, we honor you and we thank you for everything you've done. You've been a great partner. You run a great transit service. Never had any issues, no audit findings, and so just want to give a shout out to Miami Lakes for all your fine work.
Yeah, we're fortunate. Number one is that we have a very visionary council that has implemented a lot of these programs, and we have an incredible staff that not only the transportation and transit folks that make it happen, but also then the folks that work behind the scenes, our finance department, that really make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so we don't have any issues when the audit comes in.
So let's take a step back and let's talk about the town for a second. It's a relatively young town in terms of its incorporation, but it's been around for a while.
Since the year 2000.
Since the year 2000 is when it incorporated, but it was already a thriving community for many decades.
It was a community, and so the name Miami Lakes has been around since the 1960s. Oh. Actually, the very first home that closed in that development when it was just a development was in July of 1962.
Wow. And it was built by a famous family here in South Florida?
Yeah, the Grahams.
The Grahams, right?
Yeah. They built it out, and they built everything that is west or east of the Palmetto and many portions west of the Palmetto. They owned, I think, the entire portion, and then little by little they would sell off pieces of it for other developers to build out. But they have several developments that they built themselves, the industrial park and a few of the residential areas west of the Palmetto.
And it's a town that's associated with cows, right? So well, it was all a dairy farm. Yeah.
That whole area was a dairy farm.
Right.
The Grahams, that was their first. The street that bounds Miami Lakes on the south side is called Graham Dairy Road.
Right.
And that's because that was the southern boundary of the dairy. And then later on, they got into land development.
And I have to say, as someone who grew up in Miami Lakes, I think I shared that with you, half my childhood there. I went to Miami Lakes Elementary, Miami Lakes Middle, and then ultimately Hialeah, Miami Lakes Senior High, 30 years ago, if you could believe that, 30-year reunion this year. I grew up with the cows, right? So there was still a lot of that around. It was genius on their part because, I think they got an ag exemption on their taxes, but it was also just such a wholesome way to grow up. You felt like you were kind of in the country, and we would feed the cows. And unfortunately, as I guess the town has grown, you've lost some of that. But are there still some?
There's still some. There's a family that owns a few, not the Grahams, a different family that owns a couple lots on the west side that they still bring cows in there. And you see the cows, they rotate. I don't know anything about agriculture. I don't know anything about the cows, but you see that they bring them in for a while, then they take them out, then they bring them in. So I think they rotate them between pastures, other pastures. And but there are still some cows on the west side of Miami Lakes. I don't think there's any left on the east side of Miami Lakes.
Oh yeah, you got to keep at least one cow. Okay, it's
we have the fake cows
Lakes
that they decorate.
That's right. That's right.
They have a handful of those around town.
Now you said the town incorporated in 2000.
Yes.
And but you've been the manager since when?
Since February of 2019, so a little over 6 years. But I was involved in because I live in Miami Lakes. I've lived there for over 33 years. And I was involved in the incorporation process in the sense of I was appointed to sit on the committee that wrote the very first charter for the town of Miami Lakes.
Your founding father.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
And now prior to that, you were, I believe, a firefighter for the city of Miami. Tell us about your prior career.
Yeah, I worked for the city of Miami in the fire department. I retired as the deputy fire chief in 2016. And then I worked there for 30 years. Then I worked for almost 3 years with the Broward Fire Department, which is under the umbrella of the Broward Sheriff's Office. So I worked in Broward County. A gentleman who was one of my colleagues from the Miami Fire Department was named Fire Chief in Broward County, and I was enjoying my retirement, getting ready for my daughter's wedding, and he says, "Hey, you want to go back to work?" So I went back and I worked there for almost 3 years.
That's great. And how did you transition from that to being town manager? I guess you went from fighting fires to putting out fires on a daily basis.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Sort of very similar tactics, right? I lived in Miami Lakes, and the gentleman who was the town manager in Miami Lakes was participating in a pension program that had an expiration. So he had to terminate his employment. Everything was good. The town loved him. He did a great job in Miami Lakes, but because of the pension program, he had to terminate his employment at that time. So thankfully, it was almost like programmed, right? So there was no rush. The town went through a very slow and methodical process. They put out notices. They entertained candidates. They went through resident review. Residents from the town established that there was a panel that they interviewed some of the finalists and went through the process. And then ultimately the council appointed me. So when I saw that it was open, and I said, "Hey, I've always wanted to give back to my town and be able to, not only try and make good things happen, but also there's a little bit of a double whammy, right? Because I also get to benefit from all the good things that we do." Right.
Excellent. Well, I think they've made a wise choice. You've been there for years, so they must be happy with you, and I know you're doing great things.
They haven't thrown me out yet. Yeah, a little over 6 years.
Yeah. And so, for those who I guess don't know where Miami Lakes is, the easiest way to define it is it's at the bend of the Palmetto, right? So where the Palmetto transitions from going north-south to kind of east-west, you kind of are embraced by that.
Right. We're both on the inside of the curve
and then just
on the west side of the southern part of the curve, not the east-west portion. The east-west portion, the northern portion is already outside the municipal boundaries, but the western portion of the last of the north-south portion, and we're inside the curve.
So you're defined in many ways by highways. And I know, in addition to the Palmetto, you have 75, you have the Gratney, obviously, that defines, I guess, your southern boundary, and maybe even portions of the Turnpike. And yet, while you have all these highways, I think there are some issues with accessing those highways. That's something that the city, or the town, is working towards. Tell us about some of those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that you say we have access to several different highways, but the bad thing is that we're kind of landlocked in a lot of ways. Not so much north-south, but east-west. In other words, to get from one side, from the east side of Miami Lakes to the west side of Miami Lakes or vice versa, there's only one street, Northwest 154th Street, Miami Lakes Drive. So that is our greatest challenge, is east-west travel within the town of Miami Lakes. And so the good thing is that we have easy access to the Palmetto, Gratney, 75, like you say, but the bad thing is that they landlock us, and it creates a lot of traffic issues within the town of Miami Lakes.
So you're working with some of those entities to kind of create some more access points or through streets, or?
Yeah, one of the things, it's a long-range plan. We had been working kind of in conjunction with the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, who oversees the Palmetto. As you know, everybody knows, the express lanes on the Palmetto came up, and they finish at the Gratney. There were plans. In fact, they even got to the point where they were completely designed. They're sitting on a shelf gathering dust now. But the Florida Department of Transportation had expected to run the express lanes all the way north of the Gratney, around the big curve, and meet in with the express lanes that they're developing now in the Golden Glades interchange. There were some issues, some land issues with the rerouting of a major gas line that runs in the area where they would have to widen the Palmetto to do that, to put in the gas lines. But one of the things that was going to do, if they were going to put the express lanes in, was it was going to elevate the Palmetto, especially that portion from the Gratney to the curve. What that was going to allow us to do was to put in 2 more east-west underpasses under the Palmetto that would have eased that east-west travel. So that's where we're at. It's sitting on a shelf. The Florida Department of Transportation and the gas distributor have not been able to come to an agreement on the cost sharing of the rerouting of those gas lines. So that's why it's kind of like at a stalemate.
Okay. Well, let's set aside highway access for a second and talk about other mobility, such as transit. I know that the city receives a portion of the PTP funds.
Yes.
And you use that to run a fantastic, kind of, I guess we'll call it microtransit system in the city. Tell us about that.
Yeah, when we first started getting our portion of the PTP, the People's Transportation penny, our portion for transit was being used for a circulator bus. Right. So it was called the Mover. That's because of our back to our cow roots, right? So it was MOOVER, the Mover. And that bus route, while it was used somewhat, it was not really. We didn't feel that it was maximized. Mm-hmm. So then, kind of the rules changed and allowed, instead of fixed route systems, it allowed us to use the money for on-demand service, which was becoming more and more popular, and people were getting more and more used to it. So we partner with a company called Freebee, and we've transitioned into just a on-demand service through our Freebie service. And within Miami Lakes, it's completely free. And it even allows riders to go, I think it's 5 miles outside of the municipal boundaries.
And I believe you even connect to is it the Palmetto Metro Rail Station?
Correct. And that's really, the use of that to ride to the Palmetto Metro Rail has really exploded over the last year.
Yeah, that last mile connectivity to the larger transit system is really important. So that's great. And so if people want to find out more information about the Freebie service, what should they do?
Well, we have information on our website. Yeah. So you can go to miamilakes-fl.gov. Mm-hmm. And there's information on there about the Freebie service in Miami Lakes. There's an app. You can download an app similar to Uber and some of the other ride share.
Like it's Ride Freebie?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the name is, but if you, in your app search, in your app store, if you just put in Freebie, it should come up. Right. And then from there, it knows exactly where you're located, and you give it access to your location, and you can access the Freebie in Miami Lakes.
Great. And as I believe I presented to the commission not too long ago, and as I recall, I think your ridership is up year over year, so it's doing well, and that's a testament to your leadership and also I think to Freebie's wonderful service. So keep up the great work.
Yeah, the most frustrating thing with any of those rideshare services is when people have to wait too long. So that's something that we've been working with Freebie to kind of shorten.
The victim of your own popularity, right?
Yeah, everybody loves it so much, then the demand gets too high.
Sure.
So it's that balance, right? You can't have a car sitting waiting on every corner, right? Because obviously then that's not cost effective. But our demand is increasing, but the Freebie does a great job of making sure that there's units available to make sure they pick up people in a timely manner.
And I know outside of the transit, you're also focused on bicycle pedestrian connectivity. It's such a beautiful city with, tree-lined streets and which provide shade to cyclists. So I'm sure there is a lot of cycling activity and a lot of kind of just people walking, trying to get to places or trying to get to other transit. So what are some of the both existing, I guess, bicycle pedestrian kind of amenities you have, and what are some of the things in the works?
Yeah, we're fortunate that the Grahams, when they first built Miami Lakes, they always built in a lot of tree canopy. Yeah. And I always say the great thing is we have a beautiful, great tree canopy. The bad thing is we have a great, beautiful tree canopy because they
cause some trouble. Yes.
Yeah. Sidewalks lifting up by roots, the leaves clogging the drainage system. But those are problems that are worth having.
Absolutely.
For the beauty of the tree. We always, I think it's like 15 years now in a row that we've been awarded Tree City USA designation. So we have a beautiful, and we're known for it, right? So there's no way we could ever go away from it and become a concrete jungle. We don't want that. That's not what our residents moved to Miami Lakes for. They love the trees. But because of that, like you say, all of our, it makes for great walking paths, for biking paths, and all of those passive transportation modes. So with the PTP, we have put in a shared use path in what is Northwest 60th Avenue in the Eastern Industrial Park. Okay. We have now been able to connect that to a Safe Routes to School path that is along Miami Lake Way South. That's a project that's already done. It's completed. It's over. We also are now planning, actually, it's under construction, and it may be already done. It is on the western side of Miami Lakes, close to where Goldman Senior High School is. And it was a big, giant avenue that had huge lanes lended itself for speeding. The residents were always going crazy. So now we've put in where there's a lane in each direction with a center promenade. It has a shared use path in the center, green space, trees are coming in. It's going to have some seating areas along the path. So it kind of, the smaller lanes, we narrowed the width of the lanes. That by default makes the speeding go smaller or slower. And so those are some of the projects that we've implemented there in Miami Lakes. There's a few more that are on the drawing board in the area of what's Northwest 82nd Avenue or Montrose Road and Balgowan, in an area that's on the, I guess, the southwest section or quadrant of Miami Lakes. And so those are some that's going to be a shared use path. That's another one that's on the drawing board that's coming up soon.
Fantastic. And so, as if you don't have enough going on in Miami Lakes, you also volunteer your time to the Greater Miami Expressway Authority, which is the agency that formerly known as Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, right? So tell us about GMX and what your role is there.
Yeah, GMX has undergone significant change over the last several years. It used to be called, for those of you who remember, used to be called Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, and you would see the signs that had MDX.
Right.
There was some controversy there between the county and the state, blah, blah, blah.
Fast forward.
Yeah.
Things are good now, right?
Now the agency was not only changed the composition of how the participants or the members of that board get appointed, but also then rebranded with a new name, Greater Miami Expressway Authority. I was fortunate enough to be appointed by the Miami TPO, Miami-Dade TPO, to that board. And the good thing is GMX oversees several expressways in South Florida. The Don Shula Expressway, 836, the Gratney. And the Gratney, sometimes it's not a long, very big expressway, so it doesn't always get the attention of a 836. Yeah. You see the huge project that's going on near the as it passes Marlins baseball stadium and approaches downtown. So that's really the biggest expressway that GMX oversees. So I pursued trying to get on GMX. So the Gratney folks, right? The Hialeah, Miami Lakes, that area, because GMX is the boundary that separates the northern end of Hialeah from the southern end of Miami Lakes. So both the residents of Miami Lakes and Hialeah depend on the Gratney, right? So I wanted to have a voice for our part of South Florida, our part of Miami-Dade, on that board, so we can make sure that the Gratney is maximized. It's maintained in a beautiful way. In fact, one of the projects that is very important to our two cities is on and off ramps at 67th Avenue and the Gratney. Right now, the Gratney goes from Red Road, and the next off ramp westbound is the Palmetto, right? So like I said, that since we're landlocked in Miami Lakes, we have a lot of difficulty. The only way to get onto the Gratney would be go all the way out to the Red Road, or to catch it off the Palmetto when we get on Miami Lakes Drive. So having the on and off ramps, and it's a partial interchange. So there's one off ramp that is not going to be able, just because of the logistics and the space, they won't, westbound on the Gratney, getting off at 67th Avenue, they cannot have that ramp. So it's not a full interchange, it's a partial interchange, but all the other on and off ramps will be built. So it's over the next 4 or 5 years is when they're going to start the design process and the construction process. So we hope that, I think that the benchmark was 2029 construction would be underway.
That's fantastic. I know that area well. Having gone to HML, at lunchtime, we'd walk over to that area under the underpass to get pizza from a guy selling pizza. Yeah.
The Pizza Hut used to be right there.
I know it well. So one of the things about the Gratney is that it doesn't go all the way to 95. And I know that there were plans to do so. There was some, I guess, community opposition further east. Is that still, an objective, or has that been essentially kind of dropped? It was on the drawing board.
It was on the drawing board for GMX, but there was, like you say, community opposition. So they have now they've kind of put it on the back burner. Okay. What they are considering, but it's more of a long-range plan, right? The interchange at 67th Avenue is more short-term. They do plan to take the Gratney all the way west to the Turnpike.
Okay.
So along 138th Street, GMX has already purchased the necessary right-of-way to be able to extend the Gratney. So if you see the Gratney and you get onto 75, and as the curve goes, there'll be an extension from there. I don't know exactly what the design is going to look like, but it will be to extend the Gratney west all the way out to the Turnpike
that'd be
past
great.
Hialeah Gardens. Yeah.
And is that kind of part of and parcel of that whole American Dream Mall project and everything going out further west?
The American Dream Mall is a little further north. It's what is supposed to be the American Dream Mall, right? There's no mall yet. But there's now multiple disputes going on between the developer and the county, the developer and the Grahams, because the Grahams had agreement to sell some portions, some lots that the developer needed to be able to build their mall. The developers had timelines similar to their issue with the county. They haven't met those timelines. Everybody knows that, COVID kind of got in the way of everything, a lot of people's plans. But I don't know.
It's all a bit in flux, but
right.
Something's happening out there at some point.
I don't know if the mall is ever going to be built. Yeah. But the mall is going to be where 75 and the Turnpike intersect in that area there. Okay. That is where so north of Miami Gardens Drive, but south of that interchange with the Turnpike. But there is an important thing that is happening now that FDOT, I think it's still under construction, I don't think they've opened it yet, is the interchange at 170th Street and the Turnpike. So that is near completion. And then the hope is that the 170th will be built eastbound or east towards the Hialeah and Miami Lakes areas to give people another way out of their communities.
Okay. And I know this is a bit, outside of Miami Lakes, quite a bit outside, but I can't have someone from GMX here not ask about the Kendall Parkway. I know that was an enormous project that was initiated by MDX. Where does that project fall now? Is that something that GMX continues to pursue, or?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest decision points that the GMX board has on our agenda over the next 12 months is to make a decision on whether this is going to move forward or not. So the Kendall Parkway is still on the drawing board. It's not etched in stone yet. So it is something that's really the most important thing that we got to address in the next over the next few months.
Yeah, I know the price has gone up.
Yes.
There's still probably some environmental concerns and other things. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right, enough about that. Let's talk about some fun things. So one of the things you and I have common is the Optimist Club. So I played Little League Baseball at the Optimist Club at Miami Lakes for many years. And you coached there, I believe? Yeah,
I coached there I think the first time that I coached there was when my son, who was born in 1991, turned 4. So it would have been in 1995. And my daughter also started playing softball, who's a little older, and my son started playing t-ball. And that was the first time.
Kind of required, right? If you're a Cuban, you have to send your kids to Little League Baseball and softball.
Yeah, absolutely. Up, right? It's in our blood. Yeah, so I've been I was a coach there. Then I ended up, I coached baseball, I coached basketball, coached softball, girls softball, and it was a great experience. I mean, the Optimist Club has been synonymous with Miami Lakes. The Miami Lakes Optimist Club has been synonymous with Miami Lakes since way before we were ever incorporated as a municipality. Since the inception of I think it's way past. It's at least the club there is probably close to 60 years old.
Yeah.
So it's been synonymous. It's been part of the the fabric of Miami Lakes since the beginning.
Yeah, just don't look up my stats, okay? I was the kid in right field, if not in the dugout, making sure it was clean.
Yeah. No, but the beautiful thing is the Optimist program is very inclusive, right? So regardless of talent level, regardless of everything, they always made it a point not to allow teams to get stacked, right? So you didn't have these teams with all of the greatest players and then all of the worst players and these routes every time. They tried to make the program as competitive as possible and tried to spread out the talent level so every team had a chance every day that you went out to play. Because I think otherwise, every kid, even if they're the good kids routing the other team, they lose interest.
Yeah.
So the way that they wanted to keep interest is to make sure that they made it as competitive as possible. And there's a whole slew of people. I think one of the last people who are one of the founders who's still there, Mr. Jim Hamilton, who ran the Miami Lakes Sports Shop. for many, many years. He's one of the founders, and he's still to this day involved in the program. Jack McCall, who was another one of the founders who unfortunately passed away, his son is now, I think, the president of the Optimist Club. So it's almost like a family tradition that you continue to hand it down from generation to generation.
Yeah, unfortunately, my kids will never play there, but not interested in sports. But I do have fond memories of the Optimist and really fond memories of Miami Lakes. I tell you, it was a joy to go there a few weeks ago to present before your town council. Miami Lakes will always have, a soft spot in my heart. Such a great little town.
There have been professional baseball players. Nick Castellanos, who plays right field for the Philadelphia Phillies, played T-ball at Miami Lakes Optimist.
Okay.
Played together actually with my daughter, because when my daughter was 4 or 5 years old, they didn't have a softball yet. So she played with a whole team of boys, and it was Nick Castellanos, it was Alex Fernandez, who pitched for the Marlins.
Right.
His son. It was a great group of folks, and so Miami Lakes Optimist. My son, he pitched at FIU. So there have been really, really talented players that have come through the Miami Lakes Optimist program.
There have been, and then there have been people like me, not so talented. That's okay.
That would have been me.
We all have our skill sets. So, Mr. Manager, believe it or not, we're out of time. But I want to thank you for appearing on the program and for all of your public service through years. Not only as an administrator, but certainly as a firefighter. I tip my hat to you and everything you've done. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And folks, that's all the time we have here on Mobility Matters. We'd like to thank our partners in this endeavor, Miami's community newspapers, for producing the program in this lovely studio. Again, if you'd like to learn more about the CITT, including potentially serving as a board member or a CITT ambassador, you can learn more about those opportunities on our website, miamidade.gov/CITT. And Mr. Manager, if they'd like to learn more about the town of Miami Lakes, what's your website?
Yeah, our website is Miami Lakes altogether -FL.gov.